Yeah. Oh, okay. Just keep going. Like, I'll just cut it. Where we dropping, boys? All right, let's go. All right, I like that. That's okay. What's up, party people? What's good? What, er,
Yo, what's up?
I mean, you answered my question.
Yeah, everything's good actually.
Yeah. So as you can tell, today it's not just myself and my lonesome, but we have Nick.
So,
We have Jovan.
So,
Yeah. So quitting culture is the topic that we're going to talk about today, and yeah, from just hearing quitting culture, Jovan, what are your thoughts? What comes to mind?
I feel like quitting now.
I mean, as in, hold the mic. Hold on.
I feel like quitting now actually.
Elaborate, man. Elaborate.
Oh, nah. Quitting culture, I feel like it's something that is quite relevant, I think, in our days right now, where we live. It's quite common. So, what do you think, Nick?
well, I was trying to figure out when we thought about quitting, what is it like? Is it when we define quitting as in like, things get really, really hard and then we like decide to quit? Are we talking about that? Or are we talking about people that just like, if you find something hard, you just quit?
Isn't that the same thing? Didn't you just reworded what you said the first time? Am I wrong?
I think he's saying the same thing.
So I'm correct.
No. I mean, quitting's the same, but it's like the situation on why you quit. Because I feel like when we started it just then, are we talking about quitting culture as like the bad side of it, or like are we saying that it's actually a good thing? Because that's what that's what I was trying to say pretty much.
Well, I guess what the avenue that we'll go into is like why it's like so much more prevalent nowadays. Kind of like how like in church we talk about that consumerism within the Christian culture, where it's like I go to this church and like it didn't work out or didn't meet my expectations. I'm going to the next one now. It's like you're shopping. You're playing shopping, right? And it's like in the same way that culture is what we call that in the church context, but outside of that, it's probably just called quitting culture, right? So I guess we'll just talk about, what it is, and I guess bring more awareness to it, because even for myself, like I'll quit a lot of things that I put quite a bit of time into, which personally, if I had invested more time and just kept going, I would be really good at those things right now. But it's like with everything, like playing games, like I can't decide like what class I'm going to play. I stick to one class for like 2 weeks and I'm like, I'm bored. And I switch, I go back and start again. And that takes longer time, right? So like, yeah, it's kind of like we can talk everything under the sun about quitting culture, what you guys think about it. But for me, I just feel like, yeah, like it's just something that, I don't know, I see in other people as well, other than myself, that we just pick up something and then we drop it again. It's like going to the gym. Pick up the gym and then you quit the gym because it gets too hard, or like you're not seeing results. And like I guess that ties in with a lot of things like instant gratification and things like that. Us being on our phones so often that we're so used to that, that instant, like we just get it really quick. Like, oh yeah, like I just want to talk to someone, like flip it up. Back in the day they had to like get on a horse, and like some of them don't even have horses. You know what I mean? Yeah. So yeah, I mean yeah. So we'll go from there. And, yeah, just see we'll start with you, Jovan. Like, what are your thoughts on that, and like what are your experiences with it? Like, do you have any like personal anecdotes, or like is this something that you've seen in people that I guess weighs on you in a way?
Yeah, definitely. Actually, one thing that I feel about the quitting culture is that it's so prevalent, because as we were talking about it, I feel like it's prevalent because compared to back then, I feel like people now have a lot of choices. And I guess with choices, that brings about like, I guess, the quitting culture, because you don't have to stay committed to one thing. If this thing doesn't work out, if you don't like this, you can always switch. I feel like with the more choices that we have, the more informed we are, it's just a lot easier, I guess, to make a decision to move on to certain things. So I guess if you look at it, does quitting culture also sound like moving on to something else? I feel like that's, a part of it. But I definitely have a friend that I would not name names. So we went to uni sort of, I guess, around the same time. But so I graduated. Obviously, I then started working. But I've got this friend that did not complete uni and actually did multiple courses, switched multiple jobs, and until today, he is still trying to look for the next best thing. So I feel like having that thought of, I can always move on to better, sort of helps accentuate or I guess push you over to that, quitting culture. What do you think, Nick?
I think we actually didn't get to introduce Jovan properly. Yeah, I was like, wow, we went into it like straight. I mean, it's been a while, and this whole one mic situation is like kind of crazy. But I was like, man, I mean, people know who I am, people know who you are, but then people know who this guy is. So Jai usually does the introductions, but since I have the mic, I will try my best. Well, everybody, this is Jovan. This is his Instagram tag or whatever. Yeah. Yeah, right there. This guy is a lawyer. He owns his own firm. Do not be his intern though. I heard scary stories about it. And this guy, also serves in the same church that we are at. This guy is dad to a really, really cute baby, which hopefully he'll see this one day. Maybe. Yeah. And yeah, he's a cool dude. And Jara and I are quite privileged to be able to know him, and this is why he's here today. And then Jara and myself. Cool. All right. Well, sick. Back to what we're meant to be talking about. So Jovan kind of took what I was gonna say. I felt like when I think about like quitting or why people quit so easily now, multiple reasons, but one of it I feel like there's just so many options. Because every single ad, when you look at like finance gurus, or you think of people like that try to tell these kids or people these days how to make money, right? One big thing that I realize people always say is like trial and error. You try, if it doesn't work, keep going, then you keep finding it. And I feel like that's the concept now that has seeped into so many things where if you don't like it, just leave, right? Go find something that you really enjoy. And then so you get this whole group of people just constantly just looking at pretty much, if I don't really like this and it's not meant to feel like that, then I'm just gonna go. Because the whole thought of it, I should be feeling good but doing less work and then earning more money, right? That whole circle. And I'm just like, yeah, and I feel like people these days get so many options, If I don't want to be mates with you, I can go make more friends. I'll go here, I'll do this, I don't like this, We, like you said, you see in church, right? You can nitpick about all the things that church is not good at. So then you just go find another church, and you can pretty much like shop for a church as well. But just so I don't go over the same thing again, I feel like one thing that causes people to quit is, I think like people having the wrong foundation of doing things. So I feel like for myself, I don't usually quit much, because like I feel that whenever I step into something, I know why I'm doing it. So like, for example, I don't know whether this is bad, but like if I don't care about something, I don't care about it at all. I will put no interest at all. But when I do something, I know like I'm going to push through and try my best to make it as good as it can be, because that's what I chose. So like for me, because of that purpose, I know like this is what I want to do and meant to do. It gives me that kind of perseverance to keep pushing through, so I don't quit as easy. But at the same time, I get it. There's a lot of circumstances and things that causes people to quit that you can't really control. But for me, it's just like you can't fake it. I think when you give someone a reason why you're gonna leave, you can usually see it 99% of the time whether a person is just generally like, okay, they have to go because of reasons, or they're just lazy and they just seeps, and they just trying to use that excuse out. I guess like the last thing I'll say, it's like not a funny example, but a common example that I always saw when we were like in our youth group or just Christian circle in general. It's like, God call me out, man. Gotta go. Every single high school breakup when we were leading a youth, like, God doesn't want, like, I don't feel like, this is what God wants me right now. I gotta work on myself and then go. And I was like, cool. Some people you can really see, because like I feel that if God was going to call you out of something, he will give you something else to really push through. But those guys just quit and then they just be a potato, like it's not really anything. Like you don't see what the reasoning is or why. It just always feels like they're using that excuse as like, because no one can question it, right? If not, you're a bad guy. but you just know like it's not genuine. So yeah, that's just my 2 cents on it.
Yeah, that's a really good point about how I guess what we used to call it is being God blocked, or like, like when a girl's like, oh, like I did some prayer and like I don't feel like God wants us to be together. It's like, well, it's like what Nick says is like, well, who am I to say God, you're wrong? You know what I mean? You can't really judge someone else's faith, and you don't know what their relationship's like. And yeah, that's a good point. Like, being in a church, that's just another excuse that I guess. Sorry, if you used that before, but if it's genuine, then like I said, I wouldn't know, right? But it's like people are so quick to use that as like God's calling me out, and like I guess I found myself falling into that as well myself. But then it's like really trying to search into like what is it, and the thing about that, it's like I feel like we may be going to a different topic slightly, but it's like how do you know? Because the thing is like you just feel, like everything just aligns, right? Everything's really good. And then all of a sudden you're like, oh, that's definitely God's will, right? But is it really? You know what I mean? Is it really? Like how do I know for sure God wants me to go here or He wants me to stay here? You know what I mean? And like, I guess like that, just like another, like just prodding on like your question. I mean, not your question, but the point that you made about people exiting that way. It's like, yeah, just another thing to think about, I guess. But yeah, any further thoughts on that?
Well, actually, when Nick was talking about how God calls you out, right? I think one thing that I was thinking about in my head was, it feels like when God calls you out, God doesn't call you out into nothingness. You know what I mean? Like you don't get idle. I mean, when God calls you to a different place, to a different season, there's always a purpose. Whether it's a purposeful rest, then obviously even in resting, you're not not doing anything. You're supposed to be doing something. You're supposed to be intentional in your rest. If God's calling you to a different church, to a different season, even in marketplace and whatever they want to call it, you always, I guess you're right, you're supposed to be hustling. You're supposed to be doing something, because I don't feel like we're meant to be idle. But I feel like hearing from the both of you, one big thing I feel like that as part of, I think, the quitting culture is also what we don't talk about is commitment. I feel like it's almost a sense of, when you've committed to something, it's not just about what you feel about the whole situation and the whole thing, but I guess it's a conscious decision that you make again and again, saying that I've committed to this. Right now it may not look like what I envision it to be, but you know what? I'm going to try to change it. I'm going to try to hustle it. Because one thing that sort of comes to mind is, let's just look at how we treat relationships nowadays, whether it's friendship or even, whether you're getting married or you're in a relationship with someone. The whole quitting culture is that, if I don't feel empowered, or if I don't feel, I don't feel nice in this relationship, it's all that feeling, then you move on and you think, I'm going to look for something better or someone better. But if you think about it, back then, our parents' age, or even, older, they don't think that way. Because once they've made a commitment, they made a commitment and they try their best. And I guess one thing for me coming from that is for me, I find it a very interesting thought to have is when this commitment sort of, how long do you stay in a commitment? Like if you constantly try, if you constantly, do your best and things still don't change, do you continue to, bite the bullet, follow your commitment, or is it really time to move on? So for me, I feel like that part of the quitting culture is relevant to us, I guess, as young people, or I guess, us, our age, is to find out, when should commitment come to an end, or should there be an end to any commitment at all? And, when should we start looking for something, or, I guess like you said, when do we know when God's calling us to a different season? Yeah.
No, I was just like thinking what to say, because this guy keeps saying everything I'm about to say. So I'm like, great, maybe we need to go this way. You know what I mean? Like, no, that's a good point. Like I was thinking, because when we talk so much about like people quitting too fast, but I was thinking on the other end, it's like, one, like how do we know when to actually quit? Like when is something actually going bad and then you actually need to quit? But I was also thinking on the flip side, where when you spoke about like our parents' generation and stuff, right? Those guys stay in so long that they cop so much, hurt, pain, like mental issues, like all these EQ things, like all these things that, they never spoke about, that they can never talk, because they were taught to just keep grinding through, keep pushing through, that they ended up having issues with their mental health or EQ things, or just their own health in general, and their friendships and their relationships all take a dive because of not quitting, of just pushing through and working hard and hard and hard. So then I was just like thinking on just being like devil's advocate a little bit and be like, do you think that quitting culture is actually better for like yourself as a person? Because yeah, like you see how many people now, you know, are able to get out of like bad relationships easier because they're just like, no, I know that this is for me, like it's bad for me, I'm gonna go. Back then it's like, you know, they just stay in the situation over and over again because you just feel like, you know, I really care for you, I love you, I want to like try and keep going, but they end up getting so hurt. And you know, we've seen like on the news and all these things, but also like, yeah, like people getting abused at work, you know, like workplace bullying, harassment from your seniors and stuff. But people go like, oh, I just gotta tough it out, keep going, rather than, oh, just leaving and looking at myself and doing what I can. So then I was like thinking, you know, maybe it's not too bad either. But I just feel like we take it to extreme where there's no middle ground. And I guess leading on to what you were saying in terms of, okay, so when do we know when to quit? Honestly, I feel like that's very tricky. Like I don't think I would even know myself, because sometimes I'm in so many situations where I'm like, how much of a grind is enough for me to say that I've done my part, I've done absolutely everything, and I'm just gonna leave. And all I can really come back to constantly is just like, what do I think my purpose is in my life that I want to do? Do I feel purpose in all the things that I'm doing? Like, I guess one big comment is like when people ask like Jar and I about like the whole podcast, right? Like, oh, this is obviously like, you know, not growing the way that you thought, right? You thought you get thousands of people like following and growing, but we're still in that early stages. I'm just trying to figure out what we do. People go like, you know, do you feel like it's a waste of time, or do you think it's, you know, worth even investing or trying in because you're not really getting anywhere compared to all these guys that shoot up so quick, or they know all the things and what to do. And I guess like when I think of it that way, and I think of this situation right now, I'm like, well, the thing that will keep me going is because I know why we started this in the first place, right? Is for any one or two of you guys that really need this, and just, or ideas and thoughts that you never thought you could find someone to talk about, us doing it is like more than enough. So that in a sense keeps me like going and I feel like till that day comes where I'm like, you know what, maybe this is not really worth it anymore. Then maybe I would quit. But yeah, I don't know, that's just my initial thoughts.
Actually, one thing came to mind. You were asking sort of like, you know, when do we know when to quit, right? When do we know it's the right time to quit? Obviously, it's also really true what you've said. Like, I think our parents' generation, they don't talk about mental health, right? Now, the whole quitting culture, in somewhat, I guess, is connected to the mental health, because it's just like, you know, when you get out of a toxic relationship, right, a toxic friendship, you need to know when to quit so that it actually helps you to be a better person or be in a better place, right? But as you were talking, one thing that really came to mind for me was that we sort of view quitting culture as in, you know, you quit from something that you do, you quit from something, or I guess in a season that you're in. And I was thinking about this. What if when you leave a season, you're not quitting? Because ultimately, if you look at quitting culture, what if you're not quitting from, you know, improving on who you are? I don't know if you get what I mean. Like, because like, take it as this, right? If your whole life is a journey, you don't quit on that journey. But when you move on from something, you're not quitting on that journey. You're not quitting on yourself. But what you're doing is you're trying to find something that will help you, I guess, take you higher or better in your journey. You get what I mean? Yes. So I thought that's probably an interesting way to I guess view quitting culture as well. Because I feel like, yes, you know, I talked about the friend, I talked about, you know, that was quitting, but I feel like sometimes, I mean, we think of the extreme as, you know, you move on, you give up, and then, you know, you're not gonna make it big. But I feel like, just like this podcast, I mean, I started out listening to this podcast and now I made it here. Hey! But I feel like what I actually really enjoy and appreciate from listening to this podcast is I feel like as you continue, when you're not, you know, if you move on, I don't think it's because you're quitting on the podcast. But yet you're going to move on from this podcast to something else, right? You're going to do something else. And I feel like that is not quitting on yourself. You're still growing in different ways and different ways, really. So I thought that's kind of interesting thought that I have.
No, that's a good way to put it, actually. No, because when I think about it, like our journey together, Nick and myself, like we started like the dance ministry. We did like things like host events and all that. I mean, he did most of the planning. I was kind of just on the mic as always. And like, I mean, that went down, but then fresh produce came up. But then from fresh produce, I guess like, I mean, I don't know how you would want to say it, but like we're pretty inactive on that front. But fresh goods is like its own, is the podcast face of that, and that has continued, in that name, so to speak. Everyone else is still doing their respectful things, but on their own name, basically, right? And I guess making like just adding to what you brought up just then. That's kind of like how I see it. I guess from what you mean. Yeah, it's a journey. So like all that brought us to here now, what we're doing now. So I see that. And I was just thinking about what can I, like that verse I shared with you, Nick. Yeah, no, because I thought about that as well. Like that helped me as well because I was just talking to my brother Nick the other day at church, and this verse I think it was in Proverbs. It says something like, if I shared it with you as well. These guys know, you guys don't know yet, but it goes that like an inheritance claimed too early is not a blessing in the end, and I think that in some ways like people quit when they don't get that early inheritance, and then you know what I mean, or like I guess if they get too early, then it doesn't become a blessing in the end, So I guess like with going back to what Nick said, it's like moderation, like you need a bit of both of like best of both worlds. You can't be too extreme this side, too extreme that side. You can't just quit too easy, and you can't stick too long if like if you're not meant to be there, like if it's a toxic relationship, But yeah, I guess we do see the extremes a lot nowadays. Unfortunately, that's just how it is. But you can learn from each side. Like yes, your mental health is very important. You need to know when to stop, and you also need to know when you should push on, because like sometimes like people around you, right? You gotta think that like these people believe in you as well, and like they think that you can do something with what you have, and you just quit, So it's like, but everyone understands. Again, it's like what you said. It's like just a journey, right? People learn, and like you can't deny the fact that once you learn something here, you learn a little something here, you learn a little something here, and you combine it, and it becomes one thing. So yeah, I mean that's why I reckon. Like I think you just need to find a good balance. I mean overall, like from what we've been saying, I feel like we agree that that's what it is, right? Yeah. So yeah, I mean that's all I have to say on that. Any more points?
I think so. I was reading this one day, and I found this quote that was really good. So I'm going to take it from quoting Nate. I remember this quote that says, "Do not let your ambition weaken your foundation." So I thought it's pretty interesting because if you talk about quitting culture, it's always you have that mentality of always this is not the best thing I'm in right now. I want to be the next best thing. I want to search for the next best thing. So that's ambition, right? You always aspire to be even better. You always aspire to find something that makes you feel better. But I think that's where I guess the other side of the quitting culture, the commitment bit that we talked about, was don't let that sort of ambition weaken the foundation. Because I feel like there's certain things when you hustle through, when you push through, that's that's like the layers of building something that's in you. And you need to, in every season, you need to learn certain skills, learn certain things to help you move on to the next season. So I feel like, maybe that's the thing, don't just look at the ambition, don't just look at, oh, I could get a lot more in this, I could do a lot more in this. And then we forget, in order to do that bit, we need to learn something right here to move on to the next bit, Yeah.
Yeah. It was like similar to what I was gonna say again, but yeah. So I was trying to think about something slightly different. But when I was thinking about it, I was thinking about this person that we actually know, or a few people that we actually know, that was always thriving and looking for something better, because they always felt like there was something better out, like there, like from what they have. So they kept thriving for whatever that better was. And I don't know, I was just thinking on like the thought of like, the truth is there is always going to be something better, You're never going to find the best, because there's always going to be better. It's like, no matter how rich you want to get, there's always one dude out there, or girl, that is richer than you, Like it's just the fact, like that you're never going to be the best, or because there's always going to be someone out there that will just have more. And I feel that like, in saying that, like, when you have something, just don't give up just because you feel like, oh, that's a better alternative, I can leave now and then go try something else. Like, just find what you love doing and whatever it is, or find the people that you feel like is worth fighting for, friendships or relationships and things, and stick to it, because that in itself will be the best for you, because you actually get that stability rather than looking for something new or constantly going and you never get stable, so you're just constantly on the search, and then you keep going and changing to the point where one day you're going to realize that, oh my god, I like lost everyone and I gave everything up just to find this, but then you're alone and you're just lost, you know? So I mean, it doesn't happen. Some people find what they do, but just stick it through, you know? Like, if, like, I remember I was watching some random YouTube channel or show, and they were saying, like, you know, money that comes quick goes quick as well. And it's same with, like, everything, really. I feel that friends that you make really quick, like, they will be the first ones to go as well. You know, like, everything takes time, everything takes, you know, sharpening, I would say. And everything just takes step by step. I think you never start a game and then you go straight to the last level and beat the boss, right? It makes no sense. So, yeah, like, just push through, because I think it's good in that, but also just, yeah, know why you do it. And it would definitely help you out from that. But at the same time, I'm not saying that quitting is bad. Just think about it. Don't quit too soon.
I'm going to throw us a curveball here. Do you think that, you know, I mean, obviously there are people that are watching this, and obviously there are going to be people that are successful, you know? Do you think that people would think that, you know, it's just because we say this because we're sour, you know? Because we didn't make it, you know? That's why we tell the people, you know, keep going. Do you think that, you know, that sort of is what people are going to feel?
I hope you don't feel that way, because I would be very offended. But I don't know. Like, I think successful. I guess we'll just use this podcast for an example. I guess, like, in the beginning, it did. I mean, I wouldn't say that we're talking about this in the way that we are because we're sour. I wouldn't say that. That's what I feel. But in terms of, like, the podcast and, like, what Nick mentioned earlier, like, seeing all these other people, like, you know, just grow, just crazy growth, and it's like, where does it come from, you know? Like, they just got lucky and it happened. I don't know, I'm not saying that you got lucky. We probably worked hard. And, like, in the same way, like, you know, we're trying to work our way as well. And I guess it's like, again, what I said earlier is, like, you know, you don't want to claim your inheritance too early, because sometimes you're not ready for it. You know, like, what if we do get that growth? Like, you know, we actually, one of our TikToks made like 64K views, right? We got a lot of followers on TikTok, but after that, we didn't know what to do with it. We didn't pump out content consistent enough to keep that crowd entertained. You know what I mean? We weren't ready for that. We weren't at that level because we were still, like, on a, like, release once a month kind of, like, avenue, you know? And, like, I guess our content wasn't that great enough that people would wait a month and be like, yes, I'm gonna watch it. Well, sure, there are some probably loyal fans that do, but you know what I mean? Like, it's not the same. And so, like, I guess, like, backing up what I just said, we weren't ready for that kind of growth. So I think fresh goods will grow when we're ready to take it. And that just goes the same with everything else. And, like, that's kind of like, I have a story. I was watching a little bit of a biography of Charles Oliveira, which is the lightweight champion. Well, he's not at the moment, but he technically is. Because he lost it because, like, you know, weight cut. Anyways, too much details. But basically, he lived in the favelas, right, which is the slums in Brazil, in Rio. And, like, the doctor said that he couldn't play soccer because his body was so weak. But then because it was, like, heavy on the knees and stuff like that. So his uncle took him to a jiu-jitsu gym, and that's when he started his, like, MMA career. Well, unfortunately, his uncle died, like, in the shooting, and because it's really bad over there, right? So then he moved into mixed martial arts, and then he got really good, joined the UFC, right? You think things would get better? No, he started losing a lot, right? And he was, like, thinking that he was, like, you know, like, not good enough to reach. He was, like, on a huge losing streak, was not good. But it's like what Nick said, like, he stuck through because he was fighting for something. He had a family that he wanted to get out of the slums. You know, like, he had a really good foundation of why he was there. And now he's on a winning streak, and he's pretty much the lightweight champion of the world. And that's, like, I look at them like, dang, like, if only like most of us, if we just stuck through a little longer, who knows where we could be. And I guess this is what's holding me on to Fresh Goods as well, you know, like, and again, it's like I make it clear that we're not in it for the followers, we're in it for who we could help, you know, like the value that we can add to your lives in any shape or form. For those of you that are listening, like, we're really grateful. Just want to put it out there, little heart to heart, little, you know, you guys know who you are. So yeah, I mean, that's what I want to say on that. Yeah.
Well, I guess you need to cop some L's to cop the dub.
That's right. 1, 2, 3. Right? Isn't it? There you go.
Yeah, I feel like that's so true, you know. Obviously, it was a curveball, right? But I actually think that's very true. I mean, again and again, I think whatever that we've been talking about, I mean, I feel like we're all in agreement that copying the L's is sort of necessary for you to cop the dubs, you know, at the end of the day. And I mean, I've been, you know, serving the same church. I've been attending the same church for, you know, at least what, 12 years or 13 years. And you know, obviously there's always the question, you know, why haven't you moved? You know, why haven't you, you know, when things weren't doing well, you know, why are you still, you know, stuck in it? But one thing that I find is, you know, even for you know, you guys out there that's listening to this, there are going to be times when you're going to be challenged, right? You're going to be challenged with the decision to either to quit or to continue or to press on. And it's going to be a hard decision, you know, it's never easy nonetheless. But I feel that, I think, like you said, you know, knowing your passion, knowing the purpose that you're there, you know, helps a lot. And like you said as well, you know, you got to find something that you enjoy, that you love, you know, that brings you, that brings the meaning of you, you know, continue to hustle. And I find that, you know, I guess another reason for that is when you commit, right, when you continue when you're not quitting, you're going for it, you're continuing the hustle. You may not see that, you know, there's real change or real success anywhere. But one thing that I find is that although you may not see it, but other people will see what you're doing. And when you do that, I feel like you're breaking through for other people. Because when other people look at this, people are going to be like, you know, the thing is this, you know, think about it. When you look at someone that's working hard, although they're not successful, but they're working hard, you will look at that person and you say, I admire that person. I respect the person, right? The response is never, wow, this guy's just working for nothing, you know? Mm-hmm. Most of the time, I guess 80% to 90% of the time, you look at the person, you know what? The guy's not achieving much, but I admire that. I respect the fact that he's continuing to hustle, continuing to push. So I feel like that's what, I guess, committed and not being part of that quitting culture is that you don't know how much of an impact you are showing other people. And you're breaking through for other people as well. Any thoughts?
Yeah, as you were sharing, I remember this thing. I went to Japan with like few of my mates, like 3-4 years now. And then there's just one store that I like really remember out of all the stores that we went to. And it was late night, we were just out and we got lost and we're just looking for some like place to eat. And it was like 11 p.m. I think in Japan, and we found this random small like ramen corner store, and we walked in and it was still open. It was all Japanese, so we just clicked the stars, you know, the menu with whoever the star was. And you sit around like, it's like a sushi train almost, but for ramen. And then pretty much like there is an auntie and uncle, and the uncle's hands, right, were just like swollen because of all the heat of just the noodles constantly. And then the auntie would be like plating the dishes, putting things together, taking in the orders and things like that. And I remember like looking at that and then finding out that, you know, they've been doing this for like 50 years as a couple, hustling, you know. And it's just like they start at 7 a.m., get ready, all the ingredients, blah blah blah, all the way to 12 a.m. and then they go back and rest. Same thing again. They've not stopped for years. And I look at that and I was like, oh my god, you know, everybody's in and out. They see the hustle, but like I remember it was just so touching because like you could see the hands and just the quality of just how their health is. It's like they're just overworking. But then I was like, man, that was like the best ramen I've had. You know, like it was so simple. It was one of those minimal ramens, but it was so good. And I just remember, and I guess as you share, I just remembered that because I was like, damn, I was so blessed that day. They may not know it, but that really like spoke to me. because I'm like, damn, these guys really love making ramen, and this is why I'm enjoying this like perfectly balanced like broth noodles, like everything, and it's so simple, but they've mastered it. And yeah, and I just think, I guess from our perspective, a lot of it is either the podcast or church or whatever we do because it's a major part of our lives. It's just like, it's rewarding to know that I am able to bless someone, you know? So like what Jar said about podcasts, like, yeah, we're not where we both want to be with this podcast. But at least we know that when we release this, at least there's one of you guys out there that actually takes something out of it. And for me, like, that's pretty cool. Because I think, you know, every single person is precious in a sense where they matter and what they feel. Because if I was struggling, I want people that helps me know that I matter too, right? And it's the same thing. And I hope that, like, when you guys listen to this, you can kind of see that, like, we're genuine in that sense. Yeah, you know, and all those people that may think that, you know, we're salty if you're around us and you quit and stuff. Not really. I hope that on the outside they can see that we're still pretty good mates. Like, we still wish the best for everybody. It's just like sometimes it is what it is, and sometimes people as you journey. Some people just go a different way, you know. Some people, but at the end of the day, it's the relationships with those people that count. And yeah, it is what it is. But yeah, that's just my thoughts.
Any other words or things that come to mind that you want to say? Anything?
So I've got a question. I mean, we talked a lot about quitting culture, right? And everything that we've talked about. What is one thing? Oh, I guess my question is, how do you find strength when you're faced with that decision of quitting or moving on? Do you guys have you guys been able to find that strength to continue on? I guess I'm pretty sure, like, for out there, everyone that's hearing it, or whoever that's, out there and listening to the podcast, maybe there's some of them that they're faced with a decision right now, when they listen to this, and they're thinking, maybe should I quit? Should I continue? And it's hard to find, I guess, strength to continue. Maybe from you guys. I mean, you guys have done this for so long. I'm sort of like, a little guest right here. But I thought I want to hear from you guys, because you guys persevered. You guys hustled through it. How do you find that strength when all hope seems lost?
For this in particular, I'd say it's like literally what Nick said. It's knowing why we started this. It was to add value to people, and to glorify God. And I guess, like, in a way, it's like we just want to create a community. It's not just a podcast. Like, I like interacting on the stories on Instagram and hearing what people's thoughts and opinions are. So now you know who it is. Most of the time, you're talking to me, okay? But I have people like there's this question. This guy's like, "Oh, I'm 12, Nick," and I'm like, "This isn't Nick," For example, So if you're listening, it was me. But I mean, I'm not saying that Nick won't be posting stuff. You never know. We will keep it. We'll change it up. You just don't know who you're talking to. That's just how it is. But yeah, I think it's just remembering why we started this, and I guess, like, looking back on all the things that I've done personally, I had wished that maybe I had pushed through a little longer, So, but with this one in particular, I really believe in what we do. I really believe in it, and that's why I want to keep doing it, because I also see the impact it has in some people. I'm not saying it's a huge impact, but the fact that people mess with it, that they actually like listening to us talk. How ridiculous is that? People like listening to me talk, like, bro, like some people can't even stand the sound of their voice, you know what I mean? But I really appreciate that, and when I look at it, it's not like it's like a very like, oh, I'm here now, It's very humbling, actually. Like, I feel that's great. Like, I'm glad that people can take something away and it can bring a smile to their face, or something they can take away and apply in their lives, and I think that's what's really cool about this. But yeah, it's like being a youth leader, but having more reach. You know what I mean? Yeah.
Yeah, pretty much the same as Jar. I don't know. Yeah. I should be going first next time. Nah, but yeah. I think, like, in the sense of the context of, like, let's say this podcast, because it's probably most relevant with people watching us. It's like, yeah, just knowing why we do it, and I guess, like, finding joy in what we do. Because I know that for some people, they know why they do it, but it's actually, like, eating them up, where they just, start hating everything, doing everything. I think the joy matters too, but it's just depending on what your joy is driven by. Like our joy is, knowing that we are being able to reach out to someone. But for example, if your joy is just constantly, I just want to be the most famous thing or the richest, then it's not a bad thing, but because it's a good motivator. But then sometimes you just have to look, I would say, deeper. Like, I know that being the best in the world or being the richest and stuff may seem great, but I just feel like it's very shallow. Like there has to be a deeper meaning that I just want lots of money. It's nothing bad in that. I just feel that sometimes you just need a deeper reasoning internally for yourself so that you can actually push through the hard stuff. Because you look at money and then let's say money doesn't come in for another 3 years. No one's going to survive with that goal in mind for 3 years of being broke. There has to be something deeper. It's like what you shared about the Oliveira's thing, or even like Connor back then, when now he's like doing everything he wants to, but it was so tough. But he had something internal. It cannot be just to be the richest and all these whiskey brands, all these things. Is not right. It has to be something deeper. Yeah, and I feel like everybody has that, but you just got to find that, because that will push through the hard times, but also like to give you joy in what you do so you don't quit. But it's just a matter of your situation and what you're at. For us in this podcast, it's great, because when I hear Jared telling me about, some people commenting or people telling us, whoa, this is actually really cool, even though if it's just Jared, I'm not even there, it's still rewarding, because I know that, hey, at least we got to have fun and speak your minds and people still just vibe with it. That means that we're not alone and there's people out there. So, if you vibe with us, do share it though with your homies, but yeah, that's just my thoughts, nothing too much.
I just want to add on that, and as much as we used to say like, subscribe and all that stuff, and I have the urges sometimes to still do that, but I feel like I've come to a point now where I'm completely content with just making content and not growing, because I enjoy it, and for the people that like it, they like it, and that's all I could take from it. So I'm gonna try. I mean, I don't want to bite my word on this in the future, but if I just want them to follow if they want to, you know what I mean? I don't want people going around like, oh, you should follow these guys because they're my youth leaders, or you should follow them because my friend, I want you to follow us because you want to follow us, and that's my heart on that. That's why I feel, because I don't want the clout. It's not really about us. We're not like that, again, Fresh Goods is not just Nick, myself, and Ethan. We're like a community. We're people. You're Fresh Goods, you know what I mean? And that's what I want. That's what I want. But I guess I can speak for all of us, is that's what we wanted in the beginning anyways, right? But yeah. Long answer from Nick and myself, but you really tapped into a nice spot for that. But thank you for the question. Do you have any more questions?
No, I think I'm pretty done, man.
Well, guys, thanks for joining us. That was Quitting Culture, and we went on a whole roller coaster. We were like the rave cave on the map. So that's where we were. If you guys were wondering on the map where we were in the rave cave, having a good old time. But yeah, thanks again for tuning in. Sincerely, I don't know how much more I could show on camera, how appreciative I am of every little viewer there is on our video. Yeah, we don't hit the Ks, but we have that 1, 2, 10, 20, 100. I appreciate every single one of you, man. Just watch it through. but this is a joke, but watch what you want. But thanks again for Jovan joining us. He's a great friend of ours, and I just thought that we'll have him on, because we've always been having some really deep conversations recently, and I thought why not have him on? So thanks again. Any final words for the Fresh people?
Thank you so much. I think first of all for inviting me. Look, you're not gonna say it, but I'm gonna say it. If you like this podcast, please like it, subscribe, share it, and we appreciate you guys.
Yeah. Any final words, Nick?
Yeah, tune in for the next episode. Cool.
That's right, man. We're trying to make it weekly, so more for you guys to consume. So yeah. Anyways, thanks again, and as always, stay fresh. All right, that's it.